it has been contributing to all of our classes so far. She's an ambassador here at OfficeXPats. She's an attorney. She's a CEO of a local business, and she's got a lot of great content. We're getting going a little bit late, so if you can stay a few minutes past, that's great. And if you can't, we forgive you for leaving early, leaving on time because we're late. And Karen, thank you so very much for being here.
It's my pleasure. Hi. So what today I'm going to do, as you know, I've been here for all of the different meetings, and so what I've tried to do is take some of the questions and comments as we've gone through all 4 classes on social media, and not some of it's a summary, some of it's new, and some of it I'm going to share experiences, good and bad, sort of cautions and tips that hopefully will help you in your social media strategy. So getting started, some of this may be a review for other people, but the key to any marketing strategy for social media is that, one, you have to know your audience, and in order to convert somebody, first they have to be a follower, and then you have to convert them to a customer. And that's really key. Don't assume because somebody follows you they're a customer. That conversion is huge. And it takes a long time, and there's many ways to do it. And I can tell you that we sell a service at Silver Planet, and so one of the things I tried to do, because services are harder to sell, is I hired somebody who I was going to be paid on performance based, on conversions. There's people who know business and who know analytics, and we're going to be paid based on where they could test my site and figure out what are people looking at and how do you click on. So there's all kinds of ways to do that, but first you have to get a following, and then you have to learn how to convert the person into to sell them. So how do you do that? Well, we've talked about some of this before. You have to have interesting quality content. It's relevant to who your audience is, and quality means that you're not just putting down, oh, buy this product, because you all know you get tons of emails that are all spammy and scammy, and it's like, I don't need this crap. So what's interesting about its quality means something that you want to read and that your viewers, and the way you find out if they want to do it is by listening to your followers. Because as you start providing content and your people are commenting, you're going to ask them for input. If they criticize you, we've talked about this before, you really need to address it. It doesn't mean you're going to, if they don't like your product and they say, I don't like this, it didn't work for me. You don't have to give them a free one. It's good PR to do that, and you tell everyone else about it. But at minimum, you're going to say, thanks for contacting me. I'm really sorry you're unhappy with X. It's about being responsive to your listeners. Engage them with questions, polls, opinions. SurveyMonkey is free. It's a service you can use to, if you want to do a quick poll of something. If you do a poll, and I've done those, I recommend, you don't have to do it, but you keep it really short. We're all busy, and think about how you like a poll. If you have one that says it takes 7 minutes, you know, often you're deleting it because that's way too long. But if it's a question of four questions, you might be willing to do a poll because it's quick. And if you do a poll, which is a whole separate topic, you want to make sure that your questions are very easy. You're not asking, you can give a place for comments, but most of us don't have time for comments. So what you want to do is a yes or no. You want to think about what you really want to know and answer it that way.
Stop right there. That was really powerful. Can you repeat what you just said?
About a poll?
About a poll and what makes it, the most effective. You just gave some really simple things.
You want a limited number of questions.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe 5 to 7, no more than 10 questions, in my opinion. That's just one opinion.
And it might be good to also let the people know how long you expect it to take. Like if it's going to be a 2-minute poll, tell them it's going to be a 2-minute poll.
I want your input. Will you take this poll for me? It's 10 questions.
Yeah.
Or it's 2 minutes. And when you see that, think about when you get a survey, how you feel about it. And that's how your readers are going to feel too. So if you want to do a poll because you're trying to get information, what is your goal? Your poll can't be everything. You're not going to get a million answers. So really have, just like anything in marketing, you want to have a key goal. I want to know how they like X. And that's what you're focusing on. So you ask targeted questions about X, really short, yes or no, or where you have multiple choice, they're better. Don't expect people don't have time to write comments. If they really feel compelled, they're going to send you an email about comments, but most people, if they're doing this, they sort of see it as a favor. I mean, that's how I see it, so a lot of people do. So you want to make it easy for them. Give them your choices, A, B, and C, or D, all of the above, so that it's easy for somebody. You want the whole thing, there's so many choices online, so you want to make things easy. And SurveyMonkey is a quick one. I'm sure there's others, but that's just one way to do it. But the key here is on your social media, if you want to know what do people like it, you can ask them, hey, I have a new product here, or we're starting a new line, or what do you think of it? Please give me your comments. You can just put that down, as simple as that. Invite people to comment, and they will give you feedback. Not everyone, but they know it's okay. Many people need to be invited in continually before they give feedback. Before they ask a question, you want me to stop and say, okay, are there any questions? Some people just butt in and say, I have a question, but not everyone's like that. So we all have different comfort levels, so you want to invite people in. Engagement with your followers is how you're going to convert them. Because first they become followers, then they buy into what you're doing, then you can sell and convert them into whatever your product or service is. And these are ways to do that, by responding to comments, particularly in my opinion negative. You always need to respond, and everyone else will see. They won't just see that somebody hated it or they didn't like your service. They'll see that you care enough. Even if you're not resolving the problem, you're going to look into it. Incentives are another way. Think when you have a new product or services, incentives are getting somebody to buy, so you're putting in a coupon. All Facebook users get 10% off. If you want to attract people and you have a new business or service, don't look at making a profit on that initially. Look at getting followers and loyalty. And so it almost sometimes is better to do cost if you can do that on your incentives initially, because you're getting people to come in. It's a limited time only, and you need to make your terms really clear. But the more you have incentives, and you can do those on your only to Facebook followers. Another advantage, and I think somebody else talked about this already, is then you can track how many people came in that way. Videos. We all are often intimidated by, oh my God, I don't know how to make a video, I have to make it really fancy, I'm not a videographer. Some of the classes I've taken will tell you the best videos, the ones that go viral, are really simple. They can have stick figures for drawings. They can have, there's all these really cool applications now to teach you how to make good videos, and certainly that's an advantage. But don't think about you getting in front of there and just talking. And just a simple video, 2 minutes is max on YouTube, and then you put it on your website and you post it on YouTube, and people will find it. The more interesting it is, the more personal it is, the more people are going to share it. It's not about just selling.
And maybe too, if you're nervous about the video that you're putting up there, then share it, make it first, right? And then share it with some people and get feedback on it. Because, they might say, wow, it's pretty basic, but it's authentic, just go for it. Or they might make some really important suggestions.
The other thing I wanted to share about, going back to who is my audience, when we first started our social media, which was back in 2009, one of the people who worked at our company insisted on having a MySpace. And so we hired somebody to build our MySpace audience to 5,000 people, and they did it. And I was opposed, but I was not the decision maker. And we probably still have a 5,000 or more, and MySpace has become, the people who are on our MySpace page are people dating. And we're in boomers and seniors. That's not who we really wanted, but that's who that audience has become. So think about whether it's Pinterest, or think about all the different social media avenues, and think about who the audience is and what you're trying to achieve. Because the fact that we have 5,000 people, who cares? Because we're not using that, we're not a dating service. But at the time, the person who we paid to build it, and there's people who can build your social media pages, and it's a lot easier now, say, oh, this one's easier. Well, it might be, but if it's not who you want, it doesn't really help. These are just some simple strategies. Yes.
What is you? Because they post on you.
YouTube. Oh, that's a mistake. It was YouTube, and the U is, that's a mistake.
Oh.
So there we go. I didn't edit carefully my slide. Sorry. Post on YouTube. Because that's a way to get it out, and it's free. So if you make a little video, you can post it on YouTube. You can have an account and post all your videos there. This is something that I think needs to be emphasized again and again. Content is king. People want to read. People, not just Google and the search engines like content, but the reason is people are looking for valuable content. People don't want crap. They don't want 2 lines that I went to bed last night and had a dream. Now, if you're about dreaming, great. But if it's just about, if you're doing a newsletter or you're doing things, it's important to give them quality. If there's quality, people will share it. And how do you do that? I have the first thing on here about content. Own what you post or have permission. So what does that mean? It sounds scary, but the reality is you cannot just pick pictures up. You can pin things on Pinterest, but you can't just take photos you like and just stick them on your website or in your newsletter if you don't have permission. You can buy pictures, you can get a license for unlimited, or you can buy pictures one-on-one from different sites. There's a lot of royalty-free sites. Yes?
There is in WordPress, I took the WordPress class, I put up a blog site, and there was a little widget thing that I put in that gives me, if I, a choice of pictures. And I'm assuming that those, because it's, within WordPress and set up, I'm assuming those are public domain, free to use. There aren't that many choices.
They have a theme, and those are all part of what you're buying from WordPress or part of what they're providing.
Okay, so those are okay to use.
But pictures that are out there of famous people or pictures that are not in the public domain, you have to license. And there's places you can go to buy pictures, and some are as little as 99 cents. They're not all, some are expensive, but that's why, like in the elder care, you'll see the same couple in everybody's brochures. That's because it's a cheap picture to buy. And so if you look in your industry, you'll see everybody has the same 5 or 10 pictures. So that's why, because they're very inexpensive. They're less than $10, yes.
On Facebook, there are people who post like these really gorgeous pictures and they say share, and so I've always been forwarding this because I assumed they wanted to share it. They wanted to share their site, their special page. So I'm assuming that's okay. What do you think?
I think it depends. If somebody's asking you, they're giving you permission, and as long as they have permission, then they're saying to share. So that is an indication that you have a right, but it doesn't guarantee it.
So I would guess, I would guess that if you're sharing through Facebook or some other platform, that the sharing function itself probably takes care of the attribution of it so that somebody could always find out where that photo came from. Just like if you're putting it on Pinterest, Pinterest is kind of, you're doing what Pinterest wants you to do, and therefore Pinterest has taken care of, that. So I wouldn't be afraid to do it.
The sharing is, you're sharing links usually, is what you're sharing. With content,
If I see a beautiful picture, then it says like or comment or share, I click share. and
then that's okay.
It shows up on my page.
That's all
That's
right.
what I'm saying, that I'm assuming it's okay.
But with content, what some people think is, oh, I read this beautiful poem by, I don't know, by Leslie. And so she sent it to me in an email, and I like it, and I want to share it, so I'm going to put it on my website. Is that okay? No, it's not okay. And even though I say it's from Leslie Schneider and I give her full attribution, that's stealing. And if somebody can make money from something, it's not okay to take it and repost it. And that's sort of the base rule on it. And so with content, you have to get permission. Now, very often, if you read something, it doesn't matter how famous the person is. If you email them, they'll often give you permission. You say, oh, I really like it, I want to reply. And they'll give you permission. Get it in an email so you have it in writing. But don't just assume, and that's the same with pictures. You can't just assume. And the other thing that we often get in emails is we get these, everybody gets a story, now everybody's passing along jokes. I want to share this, somebody sends you a joke or an email of some story, and you pass it on you forward it to all your friends. Passing it on to your friends is not the same as putting it on your website. So if you get one of those stories you like that's really sweet, you can forward it to your friends. But if you have a site that's commercial, you don't know who owns that story. So that does not give you a right to put it on there as something that's in the public domain because you don't know that it is.
Two thoughts. So we're going back to Leslie's poem, but Leslie has her poem on a website, her website, I can link back to her
You
website,
can link, that's why I say,
back without problem.
links are good. Links are always good, back and forth, and often if you're linking to people, it's great if you say to them, oh, I'd love to link, will you link to me? And that, when you build links, the search engines love that. So linking is always good. And you can do a teaser, you can do, on another slide, I'll show you, on one of mine.
But then I had another question or comment. I think the word you said there was commercial. So if what you've got is a commercial website and you're trying to make money off your website, then that's where you've crossed lines.
Right, then your own personal
It's different
emails.
than posting something to your Facebook page would be different than posting it to your commercial page.
Well, your Facebook page is your business page, so that's also
No,
commercial.
yeah, I have a personal, what I'm saying, I have a personal Facebook page, which is
So-
different than my business Facebook
But for
page.
purposes of this class, we are talking commercial, right?
Everything is
Because this is
commercial.
social media marketing strategy, so if it's marketing, then it's about business. So everything that she's saying, if you're thinking personal Facebook page, no, different rules. We're talking about business to business or business, business to consumer.
So let's say you want to do a link with a paragraph, and I'm skipping ahead and I'll go back. This is a newsletter that we send out. So how much of this can you actually take? Well, this is a whole long article. The most would be this top paragraph, and then you have a link. Because you don't want to give somebody a link without a description, but that's the most. I mean, one sentence, maybe two, is fair use. You can't just do the whole thing, and the same with a poem. If you want to take the first two lines, read this great poem by so-and-so, and you want to put the first two lines, that's fair use, and you'll be okay for the most part. But you can't go back and do the whole poem just because you give attribution. Let me go back, sorry, no, we've gone back all the way. Sorry. Okay, so share freely. A lot of times you write and you feel proprietary about your stuff and you really don't want to just give it away. But the way social media works is giving it away is how you're going to get followers and eventually get converted customers. So it is good to share your information. So where do you do that? Pinterest, I'm not at all an expert. I've taken a couple classes on it and I was surprised. Even for services, you can share a picture and a list. And what they like on Pinterest is these lists, top 10. How do you ride a horse? Here's 10 ways. So if you do a simple list, and they like that, and that's very popular, and it's actually it's growing, but that's not my topic, and I'll just put it out there as something to consider. It's not just about pictures or if you sell quilts. You can use it for services. LinkedIn groups. I personally belong to about 56 groups that are all related. So what groups do you want to join? You want to join, if you're in insurance, you want to join insurance groups. Always, if you went to college, join your alumni group. They all have them. And that's an easy one for you to do. Your college, and then groups in your area. I belong to a lot of elder care. There's also CEO groups. There are marketing groups. And then what you do is you'll get emails from them, and then you can look at your settings for each LinkedIn group and set them so you get an email, either an alert for a new comment or a new article or a new comment every week or every day. Every week is usually not, but it depends on if you like them. And then you're going to get articles and people want comments, and that's where you share, because you should comment. Now, you're not always about talking about things on your own website or what you know, but you're sharing your knowledge, and that way you become an expert. Once you become a subject matter expert, people will come to you. So look at LinkedIn, there's hundreds and hundreds of groups, and you can just search. So Facebook, we've talked about blogs you like. Let me just finish the blogs, and then I'll lose my train of thought, and then I'll go back to you. So there are a lot of different people who blog, people in your subject matter. You want to start following them, as we've talked about, and then comment. Comment just your opinions, and then sometimes you put links back to your site in your comment, but not always. It's really critical, and I'll talk more about that, about commenting in a second. But by following people and commenting and offering value, people will start looking at you, and occasionally then you can put your own links.
You said you have 56 LinkedIn groups, and I'm wondering about search engine optimization. If you have your website and your LinkedIn profile, that's one thing on the internet. If you have 56, does that mean you're 56 more?
No, Those are just groups I belong to. In LinkedIn, you can join groups.
Oh, okay, so that doesn't make you more vigorous as far as the social, as far as the.
It's only if you participate in them. If you join a group, it's like here, you might join the chamber, if you don't do anything there, does it do anything for you? Maybe, maybe not. You're in the directory. So I'm not saying it's not a worthwhile venture, but it's how much you put into it. If you go speak at the chamber luncheons all the time, you're gonna get a lot more out of it than if you just join. And so I think that's how I look at groups, is look at what are you gonna put into them and how much you participate. They do on LinkedIn like to say, oh, who's the main influencer? And it's people who just comment. If it's a busy group, some groups are busy. But don't at all forget about your alumni, because that's someplace where you went to, even if I went to Michigan, and I haven't been there for a long time, but I belong to the University of Michigan alumni, and I comment in there, and I get a lot of people to look at that, because it's a different group. But there's people who are interested in my services. If you're purely local and you don't have anything to do with that, then that may not be the appropriate group. Comment and you will receive. This is what I'm talking about. In LinkedIn, as I said, your settings are important. Now, there's a lot of blogs, and you can get a huge response and a huge following, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. But you have to follow the comments. With most blogs, and here I'm going to talk about the New York Times, because they have a huge online, and in my business, they have a blog called the New Old Age blog. It's very popular. They get hundreds and hundreds of people reading this every single day. So if I can get known and commented on that, and they publish my comments, it's huge for me. And
They have hundreds of comments.
so I'm going to show you, this is my site, these are my analytics, and this spike here is when New York Old Age blog posted my comment. So you can just see the immediate impact. Now, it's a blog about getting older, and so I often will comment. Now, the key, however, is one, follow the rules of the blog. Sometimes they don't let you have links, sometimes they do. If you try to sell yourself too much, and let's say you comment every day on something, and you put your link in every day, you can get banned. And I was actually banned once, and then I had to beg them to come back. And so what I've done, this is my strategy, it may not work, and it really depends on the blog that you're following. And this is for blogs like, New York Times obviously has a big following. Read their rules, follow the rules, and then I would comment. I kept a spreadsheet of every time I commented, and maybe once a month I put a link to a content on my site, so that it wasn't all the time. So that every time they didn't see my name, it wasn't like I was trying to sell. But maybe if I come every 5th time, I would put a link, and then it was not me always shoving our information in the face, but often I was just talking about, oh, I think this or that or that. And when I put comments on their blog, their comments about things I really spent some time thinking about. I don't just say, oh, great, thanks for that. That's not quality. Quality is taking what somebody's saying and analyzing it, positive or negatively. It can be your personal opinion. It doesn't have to be, but really responding. So think about what you're writing on them, because that's when it has value to other people. We all have opinions. That's what you want to put in there. So I show you this because it can have a huge impact, because for me on this, that was great, because I get tons of people coming to my website from because when they put my link, everybody who came went. And the numbers translate. This is, does everyone know what this is? Google Analytics. We had our session last time. So this is one of the tools of Google Analytics that you can see your referral source. Is that the right page? Google referral sources. So you can see, and if you look at number 13 on here, these are all the people who refer to my site, Silver Planet. Google's number 1, big surprise. This is an old one, this is not new. But we go down to number 13, and it's a New Old Age blog from the New York Times, which is pretty high up on a referral source. And so I'm showing you this as an example of the effects you can have when you comment and spend time. But like everything else, it all takes time. So if you find a blog that has a lot of readership, that's in your bailiwick, it's in your space, participate in it, especially if they have a lot of readers, because this is what will happen. You can get a big spike, and then they'll be referring all the time because people read it and want to know because you have something of value to say.
So one question, so with regards to that New York Times thing, so you left a link, obviously, and then they clicked on your link. Was that a link to your blog? Because what I'm wondering is, then the strategy is, all right, you want them to click through, But the spike only is gonna help if there's some stickiness to your site, right? And so
Exactly.
they need to be able to, what was your call to action in that case, or what was your,
Well, that's a whole other
yeah.
issue, whether it was successful or not. So what it is so if I write a comment about veterans, and I give them a referral to my veterans page. We have 20,000 pages, so with me, it's not as clear cut. But your call to action should go to a page. It's not on the comment. It wouldn't be, oh, come buy my insurance or come buy my product. But you're talking about, let's say you're selling healing in PT, and you write an article about, well, you know, that this particular, I find, because it's always personal, you don't want to be liable, you know, my opinion is, I think somebody, they had a great comment, and I think that it, here's another great article about that, so people read it. Now, if you can develop a following as to what, that you have an authority on that, and then that, hopefully then they'll have a call to action on that page to take you to buy it. It depends what you're doing, if it's a product or service. That's not very clear.
And maybe just to interject, so this is me not saying this is what I do, this is saying what I, you know, the strategy, what I should be doing, is whenever you're bringing someone to your website, like she's bringing them to the page on information for veterans about aging, let's say, then ideally there would be a little form on that page that might say, want to get on our interest list for information about veterans. I'm just saying, I don't know.
That's one way to do it. It depends what you're selling and how to cultivate people. And you don't want to do it necessarily the first time, but you can ask people to join your newsletter or opt in right there. Asking people to buy the first time is probably not going to be effective.
Right. But you want them to be hooked in so that they're going to come back, or they give you permission to reach out to them again in some way.
Like you can offer a free report or something
Mhm.
like that.
And they could sign up, and then because you always want to capture information, so you
Yeah.
want to ask people. So here's a simple strategy we've used that's been really effective in terms of something you can do with your friends. This is a strategy that maximum of 5. It's really simple, it's free, because you know you can hire all kinds of people to do marketing, and they're all great, but they all cost money. So we were 3 to 5 people, all in the same area. You don't necessarily have to be in the same business, but we were, and we agreed each week to do 2 tweets and 3 Facebook posts. So every Monday, we would send to the other ones 3 posts from our website, or whatever we wanted to post, basically 3 articles, and 2 tweets, and everybody in our little group, this is all informal, we would send them out. Because I have, 2,500 people on my Twitter, so I would send them to my 2,500, and they'd send them to whoever they had. And so that's a broad way a cheap way, free way, to expand your social network. And we would do this every week. It takes a commitment. I would suggest no more than 5. That's already a lot, because you have too many people. It's like any group. People fall through, and if they don't send you stuff, well, then you don't post it. But it was something that I did with somebody, and it was pretty effective in getting a reach out that I couldn't do. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Is it like a support group or like a work group?
But we don't even talk. We're just online. It's like, I
But you
say,
all know that the other 4, who the other 4 are, and you know that that's what your goal is as a 5-person group, that you're each doing these things weekly or whatever for the purpose of growing your visitors, your connections.
yes, but it's simpler than that. It's just like, you have 3 friends who are in your business, you talk all the time, you say, okay, why don't we together figure out how we can expand our network? So it's simple, we don't have any meetings, it's just every Monday we send each other a page that has 3 tweets and 2 tweets and 3 Facebook, and then it's my responsibility to make sure I post theirs likewise.
So it could be ad hoc too, right? I mean, if you have a post, let's say you're tweeting something, and then you think, oh, I've got 2 friends, and it would be really great if they retweeted this. It would be appropriate for them. So you could just ask them to retweet it. But what she's talking about is having a systematic, ongoing commitment to do this reciprocity with some other businesses.
And 3 is a good number. I mean, if there's just 3 of you, that's a good number. And don't worry about if your friends have mass followings. Just say, okay, there's 3 of us committed to sharing each other's, and and it's a simple thing. You don't have to talk, you don't have to, you just Monday get it in and you send it out, and that's all.
I don't understand what it is you're sharing, are you sharing the
Content.
thing?
Content, just like you post on your Facebook, you post an article, okay? You want that article read by others, you write on your newsletter, well, so you give the link to you give that link there, and then they're gonna put it out. You give them the link to Twitter so that they don't have to do all the writing. You're just sending it, then all they have to do is copy and paste into their
So
own.
it can be my own material or somebody else's material that I like?
Well, usually it's your own, you always wanna do your own.
Okay, well, that's all I need to be clear what
Oh, I'm
exactly
sorry,
you're
yes,
sharing.
you
Yeah.
want to share your own so that you're increasing your exposure to the world.
It's the whole retweeting and resharing, if there's a link that comes back to you in the end, then you're gaining search engine optimization because more people are referring to you. So if you just think of it as an interconnected web, are you a node at the very outside of the web with, just a few links, or are you one of those nodes in the middle that's got all kinds of, so this is a good strategy for quickly becoming.
Quick and free. If you look at these are all people who refer to me. Now, some of them are Google, but some of this, for example, is Silverride. They're a company that does transportation in San Francisco that we exchange links. And so people have come to their site. So these referral sources, as you do more linking, and do more sharing of tweets, you're getting your stuff out there. And that's just a free marketing tool that we came up with. It's nothing, it may not work for you, but it does work for some.
I just want to add to the group, I know you know this, but when people send you an email and want you to share links with them, it's important you check them out first. Don't just say yes. I get requests all the time from businesses that I do not want to be affiliated with. I get a lot of requests from businesses in Australia. It's really interesting.
Yeah, look at what you're sending, because you may not be responsible for what they're putting out there, and so always know. And sometimes as your site gets bigger, people want to embed links and pay you for them. Make sure you look at what they are, because they may be for erectile dysfunction.
Right.
And you may not want that on your site. And there's really clear laws about not enticing people under 13 to your website. It's COPPA is the law, and 13 is the magic age, and that's why on a lot of sites you have, this site is intended for people 18 years or older, it's not intended for, the reason people have that is because there's certain rules you have to apply. And if you're advertising for people for tobacco or pornography, but there's a lot of things that the government will then come after you about because you haven't taken adequate precautions to shield children,
Right.
even though they're legal. Another thing to think about are press releases. Now, there's companies out there that you can pay that will send your press release out. So you have a press release. What are you doing in a press release? Well, you can do a lot of things. You can say, oh, we just acquired this company. How about just we launch this product? Or we have a new partner. There's all kinds of things you want to tell people about. And they don't have to be, that World War I happened. They can be simple. It's just about writing them and letting people know you're out there, you're surviving, and the more people pick up. Now, there's companies you can pay to do a press release, and the advantage of those people, they have programs for the year, and they cost anywhere a couple $100 probably. They can get them into Reuters and get them into the AP and get them into places where if you want to be nationally known, they'll pick them up. And so there is an advantage there, but there's also free services. You won't necessarily get into the top news feeds, but you can get into some. So, but don't think, I just dropped this, don't think that, don't think that you have to have a really significant to the world piece of news to do a press release. Be creative. Oh, we just partnered with OfficeXPats to do this new class. Now, to the world, is that really significant? But you can, maybe not, maybe it is. It certainly is to this group, and so why not tell people about it? And so, there's different ways you can do a press release. So, the other part of this is in LinkedIn, you can do a free press release. What's happening? They have a place where you can just put it in there. So don't be afraid to use that as a free press release so everybody in your LinkedIn context know that, hey, we just have a new, whatever it is, something new and exciting that you want to share. Go ahead.
Oh, I just, on the press release thing, just from a local perspective, one that so I have not used LinkedIn to post my press releases, and that's something I will rectify. But one that I have used to some success recently is sending press releases to KPBJ, the Kitsap Peninsula Business Journal, and they have their own little submission form, so you have to go and follow their rules and all that. But they send out a daily email that I get all the time, and I look at every single one of them. And when Combi was moving in next, into this room right next door, I put out a little press release that said that, Combi is co-locating at OfficeXPats, and then I put a little snippet there about how that's a trend in the co-working world, is to have, entrepreneurial startup companies co-locate with co-working. So I made it relevant to a bigger trend, and it got out in the KPBJ.
And there's all kinds of books out there and free tools to read about what to put in a press release. Because there's a certain number of words, if people pick them up, and they have to have little keywords, and there are all kinds of tools out there. The only other thing, because we're going to run out of time, that I want to say is, don't think that somebody won't pick up your story. We're all entrepreneurs, and I called up a reporter for the Seattle Times, and they did a big story on us. And they used to have a feature on new businesses. So if you have a story, call the reporters up who are covering the beat and tell them. They may or may not pick it up, but it doesn't hurt to try. So don't be afraid to do that. Newsletters and websites. So we talked a little bit about newsletters, and what I wanted to say here, and I have a picture on the next slide, is that subject line matters. And pay attention to what is above the fold. When you're sending out a newsletter, the key is that people read it and they open it. And I'm going to go into an illustration, but to cover this so I don't have to come back, a website, your homepage, what's your message? We were talking about a call to action. What's on your homepage? If somebody comes in, they know what your website does. Who are you? You might have a funky name, but if you don't have a message about what you do, they're going to leave. So it should be really clear, and it should be above the fold. Does everyone know what above the fold is? I'll show you. That's the part you see. Okay, this is a picture of my Outlook, my website. So you only see a top half, if you have anything. Or this isn't a website, I guess I could show a picture. But the part you see when you open up your computer is what's called above the fold. You can scroll down and see further. But that's not what you see when you first come to the page. So in advertising, it's called above the fold. It's what you see when you first open your browser. And it's different on each browser, but it's only the top half. Now, so does that make sense? Because that's all they're seeing. Don't assume they're going to see the bottom half. They have to be interested to scroll further. So you always want things visible on the top, and you need to have a clear message about what your website does. On your newsletters, I said that the subject line matters. And what I want to show you here, is this is a newsletter. We send out a newsletter every week, and we do scam alerts. Okay, so the first article in this is called, "Congratulations, it's your lucky day, you've just won $5,000. Now, if you got that in your inbox, you'd think it was a scam and you wouldn't even open it. So that's the title of the article. But what goes in the news, many of us don't have a preview open. So what we have when we get, this is Outlook in case anyone doesn't have it, but what we get is the top line that shows up. Now on this one, you can see it up here on the right. It says Sweepstakes scammer sentenced 6.5 years. So that's not a scam, and you might be interested in reading that article or not. But what my point here is to pay attention, because the title of your article, you can change what is in the title of your email. And that is important because that's what people look at to decide whether to read your email. And they're not necessarily the same. They can be, but titles really matter. And there's people, Leslie was sharing, like, there's a lot of people who are really good at coming up, and there's people who are at expats really coming up with good titles. Now, how do you know what's a good title? Oh, shoot. The way you know.
Nice save.
Sorry.
Very nice.
The way you know about it is by looking at your statistics and seeing what's open. Now, we use Constant Contact, which is just one way to send out newsletters. And when you look at this, when you go to Constant Contact or whatever program you're using to send out emails, you can look at the columns, and there's one called, let me get over here again, excuse me. We need a point, I don't have a pointer. So this line here, which is mostly zeros, which is a good thing, is called spam reports. More than 3 spam reports and Google gets really angry. And they can ban you and take you off your list. I mean, you can't help that sometimes once in a while you get a spam report, but you have to pay attention to that number. It tells you that. The other numbers that you care, there's a lot of things you care about. This is just an example of one newsletter. It shows the history of all of them, but you have opens and clicks. Now you have forwards. Forwards are when somebody's forwarding your email. I don't think they're as important now as they used to be, because the reality is you may just forward something from your own email browser. Like from Outlook, I just forward the whole email, and that may have the newsletter in it. But this means that I actually opened the newsletter and went to click the button forward on the newsletter. So it's not as critical, because most people just forward their own email versus the newsletters. Everyone know what I'm talking about? Okay. But the numbers, but the other stats that are important to look at are your opens and your click-throughs. Open means who opens the newsletter, and click-through that they actually click through to the article. So by looking at these, and this particular page shows all my different newsletters in the title, and it'll say what, so I can look at that and see what titles were catchy. Because a lot of times hit and miss, it's by trial and error that you find out what people like, what topics are engaging them. This is not actually looking at your true content, but it's looking at the teaser, it's looking at the subject line. So it's important to think about that and try something. If it doesn't work, next week then try something else. And whatever email, what's the word for these? MailChimp or Constant Contact, whatever vehicle you're using will have statistics that you can look at, and you can compare them to see how things are actually helping or not, and then you can pick a better title next time. Anyone have questions about that? It's just I want you to know it matters, because sometimes people just think whatever's in their newsletter is fine, and they don't really realize that people don't see the whole newsletter. They don't have a preview section opened. We get so many emails, we're just looking for ways to delete them. Okay, we're not going to have much time, so this is more of the legal portion of the talk. I am a lawyer, and so I know a fair amount about social media advertising. And so what I want to talk about is endorsements, consumer and expert endorsements. So we want to say, I love this product, or you want people to give you a testimonial. I've tried this and it's great, and you have that. One, if you have people, it's great to have testimonials on your website, if that's what you want. For privacy reasons, it's better not to have a full name. It's always better to say, Karen from Seattle, for example, loves this product, as opposed to Karen Klein from Bainbridge Island, because there's no privacy in that. And make sure you have permission, if you're quoting people, that they like your products. Ask them, is it okay if I put that up on my website? I only put in your first name. And most people are okay. They're not okay with putting in your last name. And you'd be surprised. The ones you think will be fine because they're your friend, no. Because they don't want it out there. And some people would prefer that you just say Seattle, especially if you're selling something nationally. Because Bainbridge Island is pretty identifiable if you have a more uncommon name.
Karen? I have a book that's supposed to be coming out a long time ago, but I have some really famous people endorsing it. And so that's part of my cachet, that these famous people have endorsed the book. So what would I do about them?
Well, they've already given you permission to say all that then, right?
Well, they gave me the information. I haven't really checked for permission, but.
I would email them and say, I'd love to put you, I would get permission.
Well, yeah, that's.
We can talk about it separate offline on that.
Okay, I just want to know whether if I get permission, would then be okay to
Yeah,
use their full
of
name?
course. Yeah, because they're famous and they want to know. I mean, when you read books, there's always the whole name on the back. But with products and individuals, it's not necessarily the case, so you need to be careful. Now, when I say here, truth may not be enough, that means that when you're putting endorsements or you're telling about your product and how great it is, saying that it is the best in the world is a bad idea. Because somebody's going to say, well, mine's not the best. Mine completely does this. Absolutes in advertising are pretty much a no-no. You want to use qualifying words on your products. I'm talking about not just on your website, but on the product itself, on your advertising. And just like what you put on your product, if you're selling a product, goes for all your social media sites as well. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, is really going after people, and there's huge, like $5,000 fines. So you need to be honest and transparent about whatever you're claiming. When I say adequate substantiation or clear and conspicuous disclosures of generally expected circumstances. So in other words, I have a healthy weight loss product and you can lose 10 pounds. So what's wrong with that? But maybe it means if you also exercise 3 days a week, then it has to be, not in this tiny 2-point font that you have to exercise 3 times a week. It has to be right up there. So it's about, if there's some qualifications to what you're selling, you need to have them up there on your website and anywhere in a clear way so the consumer knows what it is. Any endorsers you have you given them, so somebody says, I like the product. So let's go to the next part of that. Any connection. So maybe you only gave them the product for free. You're selling software and you gave them a copy to try and they give you a comment, I love the software. You need to disclose that. They need to disclose they gave that free on any blog. Now you can do that you can have a hashtag that says sponsor if you're tweeting, or that I was paid, or simply that I received a free product from the company to review. But you need to disclose anything of value the person is getting. It's really critical to going after people about that. So it has to be, and the adequate substantiation is that somewhere you have a link. If you're saying, I had tests that showed if we do this particular procedure over a month, studies have shown it's going to be great, it's effective, have a link to the studies. The whole study doesn't have to be on your website, but it has to be where people can find it easily so they can check it out for themselves. It's about informing the consumer and making sure they're clear and honest. On blogging, if you have somebody blogging for you, it's important that you educate them on the rules, because they may be trying to help you, but they're going to get you in big trouble if they're not qualifying what they're doing. Does anyone have any questions about this? This is almost a whole separate topic, but about Facebook. But that is that in order to reduce your risk that the FTC or anyone else is going to come after you, you have to follow the rules of the platform you're on. So Facebook has rules which you click on and agree to use, but it's important to actually know what they say, because if you're having a contest on your website, and that's a whole different can of worms, Facebook requires you to say it's not sponsored by Facebook, but you have to put that up there. That's one of their requirements. Each social media platform has its own rules. So if you're going to do any kind of contest or promotion, look at the rules of the platform you're using to make sure you're following them. That's a link to Facebook's guidelines, because their terms are going to rule, not just your own terms. Contests and sweepstakes, I'll just say briefly, this is a whole separate topic, and legally it's really complicated. Sweepstakes, a contest is a game of skill. A sweepstakes is sort of, guessing and you win. However, if you have consideration, a prize, and chance together, what you have is an illegal lottery. And that is, only the state can have a lottery. So it's really important, if you're thinking about promoting something, that you look into the rules. Everyone wants to have a contest, or they want to, give away something for free. if you're a site that it goes in 50 states and online most of us are, there's rules in each state have their own sweepstakes rules, and some of them are different. You have to have restrictions. Generally, what I would say is if you're going to run any kind of giveaway, you have to have your terms really clear. In other words, this is for, and I would suggest saying you must be 18 to enter. You have to have your physical address listed so that people know how to get a hold of you. You have to have a start date and end date and keep to it. Let's say you say by Friday, and anyone, the first 20 people, or by Friday, I'm going to draw a name to give away a free iPad. That Friday comes and you didn't get enough people, and of course they have to sign up and all this other stuff. So you think, well, I'll be nice and I'll extend it to next Friday. That's a no-no, because the people who got it in by Friday are liable to be angry that you did not hold to your rules, and they're gonna come after you. So if you pick a date, you have to be clear, you have to have rules, you have to have dates, and then you have to hold them to it. I mean, you have to hold yourself to it. Even if you're trying to be generous to people and expand it, being the nice person doesn't always get ahead. So those are just an introduction to the rules of sweepstakes and promotions, but don't think anyone can just do it and it's easy. It's not, and people get in a lot of trouble for doing it wrong. So,
Can I add the insurance side to this?
of course.
Because in insurance, now, one of the things they're looking at is if you have a business and you have business insurance, they're asking you for your website, and they will check your websites. And if you're running this type of thing, and you don't have the correct liability protection, and you get sued for this, you have no coverage at all.
Thanks for sharing that.
I mean, part of what you have insurance for is to protect you against suits for this type of thing now. That's part of your business insurance package. So you have to be really aware that your insurance business package does in fact cover you for this.
So those are just a few of the different strategies, and I think we're out of time, and so hopefully those were helpful.
Can you have a class on that?
I'm sorry.
Can you give a class on that?
On the prizes and sweepstakes?
Yeah, because this is really unique stuff, and a lot of people don't get that.
I probably could, but not right away. It's because it's very complicated. I will say that if people want to know, we did a sweepstakes on our website. We thought it'd be really fun to get. We wanted to get a lot of people to sign up for news to the site, and so we went around and we were at a big consumer show, and we gave everyone to fill out our little papers we wrote, put your name and email, and we were giving away a video recorder. It was a nice prize. It was totally free, and the first 5 people who won, we couldn't give it. They didn't want to, even though I said it, they didn't want their name out there. I mean, it took us 10 people to give away. Wow. And it was such a pain. Or we did fruit baskets. I did one with somebody where we did fruit baskets. They were giving away fruit baskets, and then the people whose names, we followed all our rules. We picked a name at random, and we then announced it, so-and-so won, and they didn't have an email, or they didn't have this. So you have to be really clear on your rules, and giving away things sometimes is more trouble than it's worth. And so I was surprised. We thought, oh my God, they were, David and those nice fruit baskets. I forget the company.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, it was a $60 fruit basket basket we were giving away, and it ended up being, I would never do it for me. I wouldn't do it again. It was such a hassle, and the people who won, they didn't want to follow our rules, they didn't want to do it, or we couldn't get a hold of them. So at the end of the day, the time it took us to give away something for free was not worth it. So, just a lesson learned.